playing lands for a really long time, so you have to imagine he's run into this matchup before.
Yeah. And, you know, we've watched him play over the course of the weekend. He's got chops. I mean, he's very familiar with the operations of his deck, for sure.
The big question here is, if you're Andrew, you know, do you snap keep a hand that has Deathrite Shaman? Is it an auto keep? Like, it's obviously a good card in the matchup, but David has other things that he can do.
That's the question, right? Because you have to imagine David's not really valuing the slow loam hands very much, because those don't interact with you fast enough. It's possible that if he's just going for broke for Merit Lage as fast as possible, Deathrite Shaman may not do very much. We'll see. You know, just got him the first turn.
There's Deathrite. Off of Bayou. Looks like Glacial Chasm may have been the draw this turn.
Glacial Chasm is also potentially very potent for David to be able to crop rotate for. That can buy him a lot of time.
Yeah. Come to the stage and see Liz. Etienne Emery Lee, please come to the stage and see Liz.
Mox Diamond in hand.
A bizarre design.
It's very strange. I've got a lot of warnings from playing that card. Because I'm really smart and handsome, mostly. That's why. Here's a Mox Diamond. Discarding a Glacial Chasm. David does have crop rotation in hand already. Maybe it's time for another Mox Diamond. Yep.
It's pretty powerful. He's got Loam.
Discard Dark Depths. What's next? Is it time to gamble? Risky.
Modern Challenge players.
With a crop rotation in hand, risky. Because crop rotation is so good in this matchup.
Your pairings for your fourth and final round are going up.
Well, the way he's opened up, he's got no lands in play. So he's got to get that going before we can really talk about Loam. And both of his lands in his opening hand don't make mana.
Yeah.
So he's kind of forced to do this.
It's a weird draw. And that's part of the reason you've seen him kind of go so slow in the opening stages of this game. It's because it's a weird draw. Ugh.
He does not want to put his crop rotation to risk, and that's why he was probably trying to think if there's some other way to avoid it. But he has to get Loam going, and none of his lands make mana. So I think his hand was kind of forced to do this, and it didn't work out well for him. But I think that's the gamble he has to take. Get it?
I despise you. Here's an exploration and passing of the turn.
I mean, it's also risky if Andrew tags the Loam.
Yeah, if he discards the Loam, the Deathrite just eats it.
Yep.
And the entire turn is just kind of a wash. Deathrite's going to eat a land. Glacial Chasm is gone for good. There's a Green Zenith for one.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the standard Premier IQ.
What if he's going to go get another Deathrite Shaman? Going to go get a Birchlore Ranger.
You need to have tax information on file with us in order for us to give you a cash
Excuse me.
prize.
Weird Ranger.
Please go up to the stage and fill out
Much
tax
different
information
in this situation.
of prize.
Lets you use Deathrite Shaman a bunch. He'll use it. He'll pick up that, untap there, play this, play Heritage Druid. Oh, look at us go. 3 green mana. Elvish Visionary, draw a card.
Standard Premier IQ players, that is time in the round. Time in the round, Standard Premier IQ players. Please end the current turn and begin the additional
Wirewoods in there.
5
This is a heck of a
extension.
turn too. Jeez.
Yep. This leads to a lot of turn 3 kills.
Pass the turn back. David Long doesn't have much going either, and David Long's start was good. This is one of those times where you wish you had the Tabernacle.
Or a land with which to crop rotate, or crop rotation, or...
Also that, yeah. This is a loan for Dark Depths.
Modern Premier IQ players.
Andrew
That
can
is
stop
time
this,
in
though.
the round.
Yep.
Active player, please finish your turn. Proceed
Return
to 5
Elvish
additional
Visionary,
turns.
untap Deathrite Shaman.
Again, Modern
Eat that
PIQ
Dark Depths.
players, that is time in the round.
I mean, this is a pretty humiliating game so far on the land side of the table.
It's bad news. It really is. Jessup's draw has been very, very good. There's a forest and a passing of the turn from Long.
The exploration as his first land drop of the game is made on turn 2 is pretty good.
Slow grind.
The highs and lows of Legacy.
It's up and down. It's up and down. Gonna eat your home now. Jessup did play Long earlier in the tournament. This is one of David's few losses. Jessup gave him his second loss. There's a Cradle.
Boodle Alley.
This was a really good draw. This was a really good draw by Andrew Jessup. This is going to be a Crater of Behemoth. You want to do the math?
David's board is just so funny to me. I'm just sort of pausing and appreciating the 2 Mox Diamonds, Exploration, and a Forest.
Yeah, that might be a best of SCG moment. Actually, that was the old beatdown right
But
there.
that's the kind of draw that I was concerned about from the land side of the table is takes too long to get set up and you get killed on turn 3.
Yep.
That's the worry that I have.
Andrew Jessup did kill on turn 3. He's up a game over David Long. Elves up a game over Lands. Take a look at the board. We'll start with Jessup and his Null Rod, his Needle, his Reclamation Sage, his Scavenging Ooze, his Sylvan Library, a Progenitus, 3 Abrupt Decay, 3 Cabal Therapy, and 3 copies of Thoughtseize.
I'm fine with the Scavenging Ooze. Attacking David's graveyard is pretty powerful here. I don't know if you necessarily want the Abrupt Decays here. David does play some stuff to the board, but it's going to be pretty light sideboarding here, I think. The discard spells aren't great. The Scavenging Ooze is really the only thing that stands out to me as being an obvious upgrade. I think the Needle is solid in this matchup as plenty of the lands have good activated powers, Thespian Sage and so forth.
4 Seer Resistance, 2 Trinisphere, a Choke, 4 Crows and Grip, Emrakul the Aeon Store, Bazooka Bog, a Beseiju who shelters them all, and a Dark Depths.
Give me that Dark Depths for sure. That's got to be David's game plan, I feel like. And I think the copies of Trinisphere and Sphere of Resistance can come in here as well. And that's a reason for Andrew to bring in the Abrupt Decays.
Fair enough. We will talk very quickly about the Spring Creature Collection here with Star City Games. Got a little bee, got a little kitty, got a little bunny, and a squeaker.
Yep, the Delver Squeakrits. All this stuff available. Card sleeves, play mats, and dice bags. Head over to StarCityGames.com/Creature Collection to order your items today, or head over to our dealer booth at any Open or Grand Prix that we're at.
Just don't get stung in the face by the bee.
Well, it's just a drawing, and it's on card sleeves, play mats, and dice bags. So not a big concern there.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just looking out for our customers.
It's good to know. People have allergies, whatever, but you're safe.
Not as safe as you probably think.
No.
Looking forward to the summer collection, which apparently the Piglet will be a part of. Not sure what other animals. What are some summertime animals? Anything strike you as a summer animal?
A summer animal. No, not really off the top of my head.
Some reason a rhino has jumped to mind.
I mean, I guess there's the image of the sub-Saharan Africa kind of creatures. It's really hot out. That's sort of an image.
A lion.
Lion.
I'm mostly thinking of the Lion King right now.
Right.
That's all I can really think of. That's all I got.
No, nothing jumps out at me as being a
There's
particular-
definitely some summer animals out there. Twitter. They know.
I guess things that hibernate. Bears.
Bear.
Bear.
Probably a summer animal.
Though, when my elementary school was attacked by a gang of black bears, it was the spring. So they show up whenever.
A gang?
Well, there was 2. I don't know. I don't know what the plural of a pack. I don't know. Whatever.
A duo of bears?
Yeah.
I don't think it was a gang if there's only 2.
Yeah. Well, we got evacuated. It was pretty frightening. I don't know. What's the is it a pack of bears? Seriously, I don't know what the. I do hope it's a gang of bears. I doubt it, but I do hope.
It seems rather unlikely that multiple bears are called a gang. Just gonna put that out there. That does not seem correct to me, but I do not claim to be very knowledgeable on the subject.
And Matthew Shank, your event is ready.
It seems like it would be obvious at this point. A group?
A sloth of bears is
That
apparently.
can't be it. That can't be it. Whoever told you that is not telling the truth.
That's less believable than gang of bears.
yeah. A sloth of bears. I can't believe that's even close to true.
A sloth of bears. So there you go. Though they didn't seem very slothful at the time.
No, they were
move
moving.
around.
They
They
were
move around.
moving and grooving.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Do you call the police in that situation?
Oh, we evacuated the school. Eventually got dealt with. I'm
Yeah.
sure animal control just shows up and does whatever they do. I grew up in the woods, man. Pretty rural.
I know. David Long gonna take a look at his 7 cards.
Fast merit liege or no? I suppose there's some hands he can draw up that say have punishing fire plus loam plus some utility beyond that. And those might be good enough to keep against Andrew. But for the most part, I think he's got to be looking for merit liege. And it's not like Andrew's sideboard is really well equipped to handle that game plan. There's a needle that can mess things up, but besides that, it's not like he gets a lot better against that angle of attack post board.
Some conflicting answers on Twitter here, Patrick. Many are saying that it's a sloth or sleuth of bears.
A sleuth of bears is better.
Some have found a pack of bears is a collective noun.
Okay.
One person believes it's a maul of bears, which I can't imagine that to be true.
We have a top 8.
Let's see.
In
We also
first
have
place,
a group
next
of.
to the standard
We're not talking about emus.
2 points.
Someone just coming in here. Hold on, the authority is here. Evan Irwin has chimed in.
It's a sleuth
It's
of
a
bears.
sleuth of bears. It has been finalized. It is a sleuth of bears.
Hi, boss. Dropping in on us.
Making sure we're keeping it professional here in the booth. That's the windswept teeth. Back to the action.
We'll talk about it on Monday, Evan.
Verdant Catacombs by Andrew.
And 6 through 10 all have 19 points.
There is a basic forest from Ice Age.
Yes, I prefer sleuth of bears to sloth of bears, but I prefer gang of bears to both.
I could probably get that renamed with enough bothersome activity. Queer and Ranger here.
And I'm just gonna kill
Listen, all language is enough people agreeing to call something. It's not a law set in stone.
I see. You learn something new every day.
Right.
Posting standings very shortly here. If
There are updates to the Oxford Dictionary all the time. Words get added to the language. They become official.
Some new words got added to Scrabble recently.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, exactly. That happens all the time.
There are basically no rules.
Deck check area, which is
Tiger here for
to the left of
David.
the stage, and we'll do a courtesy inspection before we
Got a
see-
tabernacle in his hand. Very powerful to naturally draw.
The big question, I think, is when you're supposed to play it. You know, are you just supposed to play it now and just say, hey, your Queer and Ranger has an upkeep of 1, or are you supposed to hope he puts a bunch of stuff into play and then you drop the bomb?
Well, I think that if you have no answer to Andrew's board, you need to get out in front of this and play the tabernacle right now. Because the problem is, if you let Andrew develop his board and say, oh, I'm going to get him with tabernacle, you might just die unexpectedly on one turn. So
Sure.
if you don't have punishing fire, if you don't have some way to contain his board, I think you're best served getting the tabernacle out there, constricting his development, and giving yourself the time to leverage loam or punishing fire or whatever else it is you're trying to set up.
Here's a gamble. Let's see what David's going
Players
to
in the modern
lose. Glacial
format
Chasm
view.
gone.
Your pairings
For now.
for the
Yeah,
8th
not the
round
biggest loss.
should now be posted online. Pairings and standings should be being posted.
Going to pay the
in
upkeep of
hallway.
1, Will Jessup.
Again,
But his
this
mana
is
is going to be
standings.
constricted, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can overcome all of this.
Modern.
Seems like a very hard card for Elves to beat for obvious reasons.
Yep. They don't blow up lands, so
Ladies
is just here.
and Gentlemen.
the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale was good against numerous casual decks I built as a child.
It's just it's a very fun police card.
It was often Eugene Harvey's follow-up to Armageddon.
If you have an
Now that's
order
good deck building.
Yeah, that is really good.
That's good deck building.
Make sure you go get that.
Here comes the
from
Ranger.
her in the next few minutes.
Mr. Rainforest, pass the turn back. Could get a Dryad Arbor with that, but then he'd have to pay 1 to keep it. So what
Rashad
is,
and Port
oh boy,
combo with Tabernacle.
true. See, this is why I think David can win this matchup. But cards like Tabernacle, Punishing Fire plus Go Over the Wills. I agree that Jessup can put together draws like he had last game, but the cards that David has that are good in the matchup are so good.
And to me, it's just an issue of time. When David naturally draws his most important cards, you know, if he's able to just naturally draw his combo to get Merit Legion to play, if he naturally draws the Tabernacle, that's really hard for Andrew to beat because he can't interact with the lands for the most part. There's basically just the Pithy Needle. The problem is that Andrew's not giving him that much time, and if David's avenue to get to certain things is Life from the Loam or Gamble or even Crop Rotation, that's not necessarily fast enough. But you're right. When David draws his good cards naturally, like this Tabernacle, it's tough on Andrew, big time.
Andrew is going to search up a Dryad Arbor. So each creature in play does have an upkeep. He'll pay. Uh-oh. This is a Punishing Fire. This game got real hard.
Yeah. Now, if David's able to loop this Punishing Fire, he's able to find Grove, Andrew may be locked up pretty fast.
That's the kind of combination, if you're David, that you're going to need. Now, Jessup's going to pick up a Forest and untap the Dryad Arbor. The Query Ranger's going to bite the dust. Upkeep has been paid for Tabernacle.
Players in Modern PIQ, please be making your way to your seats at this time.
And now Andrew kind of has to try to do everything in one turn because incremental progress does very little against Tabernacle. And I just don't know how he does that from the spot. I think Andrew's path, if there is one, is to add a creature here, add a creature there, have enough land drops to pay for everything, and then hope that he can play Guy's Cradle
Yep.
and do everything in one turn.
It seems like the entire game now revolves around Cradle.
Yeah, I don't know of any other way for Andrew to really do everything he needs to do in the face of the Tabernacle.
Now, given the Tabernacle, Query Ranger is one of his best cards in this situation, so I love tutoring that up a Green Sun Zenith here.
Yeah.
Gives him the best chance to just do enough stuff with his mana to drop enough stuff and then work his way towards that Cradle thing. So now he's really hoping that David Long never finds Grove of the Burn Willows, Crop Rotation, Loam for that, any of that stuff. Right now, David does have Loam, so he's going to get back Windswept Heath and Glacial Chasm.
And now another problem here is anytime David starts to sense that Andrew is getting close to being able to do something significant, he can just preemptively play the Glacial Chasm and sit behind that for a very long time.
Yep.
Are there any
It's a slow build here
players
for David.
still making their way to
Ranger's
your
gonna get used. Pick up
tables?
the
If
Forest,
so,
untap
you
the
should
Dryad
very
Arbor.
quickly, please raise your hand so that I can
So he is
see
still
your
functional
voting
around
there.
Tabernacle right now.
For those of you who in the modern
ooh,
PIQ
wow,
who
okay.
are already seated, if you
A little bit of a
do not
glimpse
have
turn,
an opponent,
perhaps.
please raise your hand
There's a
and
Forest.
help them find their seat.
Wirewood Symbiote. Draw a card.
And David just confirming to make sure a land drop got made.
Yep. Pick this up. Untap this. Tap
Players in
that.
modern PIQ, welcome to round
Replay
8.
here.
You
This
may
is when I love
begin
the
at
Elves deck.
50 minutes.
When he gets to do stuff like this, looks so good.
It's a cohesive tribal deck, even though a lot of the cards don't really call out elves too loudly, as opposed to goblins, where it's all cost reduction and pumping and giving stuff haste. Very obvious that you just put them all together and attack. The elves are a lot fancier.
Because they actually win. That's why.
They draw a bunch of cards too. That doesn't hurt.
Sure. Give goblins a red card. Why can't they just unban Recruiter?
Goblin Recruiter is arguably the worst Magic design of all time. Have you tried playing? You had to pick up and order your deck. Do you know how horrible that is?
Just give us a shot.
I saw people at the Pro Tour just sort of quit on it. Like they got their deck close enough, and that's where they stopped.
This is a pithing needle. Looks as though it's going to name Thespian Sage, but we will get confirmation.
I don't know if David lets it resolve. Maybe you name the Windswept Heath.
Get him?
Get him.
Yeah.
No, but you got to name Thespian Sage here. Andrew, no recourse to Merit Blade, so he's got to cut that off.
He has locked down the stage. All right, Long going to sacrifice Windswept Heath. Looks like in the upkeep, get a land out of the deck. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Taiga here. And there it is.
And you can see David has boarded in his 2 copies of Trinisphere, and if Trinisphere shows up alongside Tabernacle, that's
Does that make it hard to win?
really hard to break out of.
Makes it tough to win then? Well, might be a dredge, might be a draw. We'll see.
It looked like David was contemplating a natural draw there. He's got another loam in hand, it appears, and a lot of his draw steps are pretty high upside.
Oof, like that crop rotation. And he just dredged away along with the life and the loam in a gamble. No, his best crop rotation target might currently be in play.
Yep.
In Tabernacle. And again, he might just want to crop rotate a Taiga or that Thespian Sage into a Grove. That might be the best card to crop rotate into. Either way, he doesn't have one right now. There is a shot in port.
There is an argument for taking a draw step because if you just draw the Trinisphere, it's probably over.
Yes.
I think that's too much for Andrew to overcome, too many demands on his mana.
Gonna use this, pick that up, untap here. So with Wirewith Symbiote, he's going to add some mana for Dryad Arbor, pick up his Quirion Ranger, untap his Dryad Arbor, add some mana. So he's paying for the Dryad Arbor and the Wirewith Symbiote, and Quirion Ranger is no longer in play, so no need to pay for it.
Okay.
There you are.
Was an opportunity there for David to potentially crop rotate for Grove, go after some things, but with Andrew not really threatening to win the game in one turn, I think David can just sort of sit here and wait a little bit longer. No rush to do anything on David's side of the table regardless. He can just kind of hang out here. It's hard for Andrew to add very much to the table.
Just doesn't have a lot going on. It'd be very impressive if Andrew can navigate through this situation. It's very tough. Just being pulled in a lot of different directions. He'll start by playing a forest. There's Deathrite Shaman. That's a good one. And now Wirewood's going to come into the red zone. Let's see what we have here. It is a crop rotation. So going to float a mana. Looks like it might be Grove time.
Grove seems really good. Again, with Needle set on Thespian Stage, no reason to go for Dark Depths, but this mixture of cards is so hard for Andrew to beat because he can't really win the game playing a threat at a time or 2 threats at a time because Punishing Fire eats that all up. And he can't really win the game trying to flood the board because Tabernacle eats that up.
Yep.
And he's not equipped to interact with either Punishing Fire or Tabernacle. He has no way to really remove them other than this Deathrite Shaman, which is probably not long for this world.
This is lands through and through.
Yeah, this might be too much for Andrew to get out of.
This is exactly what Long wants to do in this matchup. He'll dredge 3 cards, Sphere of Resistance, Wooded Foothills, and another copy of Thespian Stage. But he wants to get you into this horrible bind where all your decisions are terrible. Gonna pick up the Punishing Fire with the Grove. I think fire away here. At least wants to do it now when Deathrite Shaman isn't an option. I'm gonna get rid of Deathrite Shaman right now. Pass the turn back. Just keep locking you up. Dryad Arbor's got an upkeep of 1.
The turns where Andrew does some stuff, David can be on the Punishing Fire plan. The turns where Andrew does nothing, he can be on the Loam
Standard
plan.
Premier IQ top 8 players. We are currently sitting to play in the area with the pink play mats.
And it's unclear if he
So
can ever build a board to
raise
get
your
out of
hand and
this.
wait it so that they know where to come out and find the area.
And in the meantime, you get to draw cards, dredge loam,
So,
tons of other stuff.
That turns that just shouted, head on over to that area. Your deck box is waiting for you at that.
I mean, really the only thing I can see Andrew trying to do is just make land drops for a bunch of turns and try to do everything in one shot.
Well, there's a land drop. It's a Misty Rainforest. For how easy game 1 was for Jessup, this game is equally as difficult.
It was really the naturally drawn Tabernacle. David got to play on the second turn. It has completely stunted Andrew's development, and that has given the time for David, via Life from the Loam, via crop rotation, to set up Punishing Fire plus Grove of the Burn Willows, and now Andrew's got to find his way to work around an angle of attack on 2 sides. One that's suppressing a lot of stuff in one turn, one that's suppressing little incremental plays.
Just trying to build. Query and Ranger and a Heritage Druid pass the turn back. Long is just going to draw a card. Dark Depths. But Thespian Stage is locked down with Pithing Needle, so that one's not the best of draws right now. There's the Depths. I'll have 10 counters on it, of course. See when he decides to thaw that thing out. Just pass the turn back. Patience, the name of the game here for long.
Yeah, I think he just wants Andrew to pay as much mana as possible into this Tabernacle, and after the dust settles and Andrew has kept around whatever he's kept around, I think you may see David go and get the Punishing Fire back and break some of this up.
That's exactly what we're going to see here. Jessup does pay 1 mana for each creature. Grove will give Jessup a life. And now there is the Punishing Fire going to go after Heritage Druid, not Queer and Ranger.
And I think David's priority here is to prevent an explosion of mana. Like, there are some good tricks that Andrew can do with Queer and Ranger to circumvent some of the impact of Tabernacle, but that doesn't really get him anywhere. What David has to be concerned with is just a burst of mana leading to a kill in one turn, and Heritage Druid is a lot more likely to facilitate that than the Queer and Ranger.
All right, Queer and Ranger will be used. So some mana available here for Jessup. There's 2 green. Elvish Visionary. Draw a card. He's still working.
Yep. Again, I think this is going to be, it's going to be too hard for Andrew to beat being squeezed on both sides, but he's doing what he can.
Yeah, I mean, he is really trying. That much is for sure. Some chip shots here and there with some elves, as long as down to only 16. Rashad and Port the draw. He is really trying. And David is really trying to make sure he can't do anything.
What I really like about this is David's not in any rush. He's not panicking. He can just say go, allow Andrew to pay for Tabernacle, kill the best thing left over.
Yep.
Let Andrew do whatever he's going to do on his turn, whatever fidgety tricks he wants to do. Rinse and repeat until Andrew runs out of cards in hand or David draws the Trinisphere.
The Trinisphere is probably the hard lock then.
I think that might actually get a concession out of Andrew if that shows up. Honestly, even Sphere of Resistance may be too much.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. See, these prison style decks, you don't find these in standard. Okay, it's more, I guess, honest, for lack of a better term. Just a lot of creature combat, things like that.
The only thing that's giving Andrew any hope in this game is the angle of attack where he has a burst of mana in one turn and does something huge. And once Trinisphere or Sphere Resistance comes down, that's no longer an option either.
Yep.
And then I think that's the final piece of the puzzle on David's side.
Punishing Fire is going to have to queer Ranger this time, so there will be an activation of the Ranger, potentially, by Jessup, in which he would pick up a forest and untap the Dryad Arbor. But he is considering some things here. It's clear that Andrew is just he's clearly playing out the game because he's got some options. He's trying to set something up.
Well, it's not a 0%er just yet.
Yeah.
He's still making plays every turn. He's still attacking for points of damage. David has stopped dredging loam. He's just on this Punishing Fire plan. And Andrew can probably play some stuff and attack for a point or two of damage a turn for a while. And if that's going on, there's no reason to concede.
Pick up that forest, untap there, lose the Ranger. All right. And now he's going to port the Dryad Arbor. Just another wrinkle. Just another wrinkle.
Yeah, and David is not dredging because his mana is tied up with Rashad Port and Punishing Fire. That's a more productive use of his mana. And he wants to give himself the draw step of Trinisphere or Sphere of Resistance.
Hey, when's the last time a land was printed that doesn't tap for mana?
Dark Depths.
So
Excluding things like fetch lands that, those
Yeah.
kind of count, but not really.
Yeah.
Dark Depths, they actually, as a design decision, decided to stop doing that, but because Cold Snap was supposed to be a throwback to old Magic sets, they thought it was appropriate to put.
Sure. I have Ugin. That kind of counts. I mean, it taps for the ability, but it generates 2 Eldrazi mana, but it doesn't actually tap for mana.
I think that still counts. I mean, it says tap, add mana to your mana. It's not universal mana or whatever.
Well, yeah, it's for I have Ugin, it just has like this floating 2 mana.
Oh, sure. Okay.
You don't actually have to tap it, so.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's depending. I think Dark Depths is the one you can point to of the old school Tabernacle, Sorrow's Path. This land has no mana-making utility. It's kind of off doing its own thing.
Sure.
The banding lands and legends, for example, Adventurer's Guild House and so forth. Bazaar of Baghdad.
That's another one. That one's a real hoot. All right, Tabernacle time. Pay. You may have noticed that David Long has a second Grove of the Burn Willows in play now. Things are getting even more difficult.
And David's just going to shoot down the Dangerous Elves as they show up after Andrew pays for them. Heritage Druid's got to go. That can give Andrew a burst of mana. Leave him with the Visionary. If Andrew's able to loop that thing, David doesn't really care very much.
Yep. The only thing David now needs is another red source of mana to be able to Punishing Fire twice a turn.
And that's nice if he gets to it, but there's no big rush.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice convenience. If it shows up, I'm sure David's happy, but it's not anything he needs to stress himself over trying to set up.
Now the big question here is, if you're Andrew, if he can get the 4 mana, he has a natural order in hand. It's unclear if he brought Progenitus in or not. I would think he did.
I don't know. I think Andrew's best served just being a pure combo deck.
Think so?
Maybe he brings in the Progenitus. I think that in his seat I would not, but we shall see.
Because it's kind of the end boss in this situation. If he's able to natural order for Progenitus, David can't get off the table. And then everything that he's done to get here is useless. As long as he's going to pick up his Punishing Fire at the end of turn. And you have to imagine that's on his mind too, along with everything else that's going on here. Thespian Sage's draw. Remember, that one can't be activated because of the Epiphany Needle in play here from Jessup.
Well, David can just set up Glacial Chasm block if Progenitus shows up.
True.
You are right. He can't actually get it off the table.
Yep. This lands deck almost has answers to everything.
It doesn't have strict answers in a lot of senses. There's some cards or permanent types that they struggle to get off the table, but they have a lot of sideways, like, no, I can't kill this, but you're locked anyway sort of setups.
Jessup going to pay for all 3 creatures. Punishing Fire going to shoot down the Queer Ranger. Looks like with the current setup, we shoot down 2 creatures one turn, shoot down 1 creature, and return Punishing Fire the next turn. Because down there will be a return. I wonder if he goes into the Dried Arbor of the Elvish Visionary now.
John Lubrano, Ivan Seto, and Scott Metcalf. If you would like to click your
Shoot
prize
there.
for the standard VIP,
Give another life away.
come and see me at the
Yeah, I
stage.
suppose Elvish Visionary is the more important one to get off the table because of Birch Lore Rangers. Like, that can lead to a turn where a lot of mana gets generated.
Yeah, some other stuff happens. It's weird.
Collect your prize.
Now you port the Dried Arbor and you pass the turn back. This deck can be excruciating to play against.
Mm-hmm.
Just how David likes it.
It's no choke for shot import. But what is, really?
Yeah, it's true. Jessup will pass the turn back. Go back Long's way. And Long might actually finally be able to cast Life from the Loam.
Yeah, Andrew, this is this feels like a step in a very bad direction for Andrew is the turn where he stops casting stuff.
Yep. Oh, there's Life from the Loam, finally. So now he gets to actually bring some stuff back. I do wonder if David actually has a way to get Pithany off the table. Not that he needs that to win, it just accelerates the process.
He's got 4 copies of Crows and Grip in his sideboard. I'd be surprised if they were brought in.
Yeah. Because the other way you can kill him is just Punishing Fire a bunch.
Yeah.
That works just fine. Punishing Fire your creatures, then Punishing Fire you to death. Upkeep. Jessup will pay. Long's going to go porting, it seems.
Yeah, I think David wants to kill the Dryad Arbor for the natural order reasons you brought up.
Yep.
And then port as much as possible with the leftovers. And that's exactly what David does. Gets the Arbor off the table, ports a bunch of stuff.
Keep those resources contained.
Yep,
Make
And-
it so the Cradle's never going to do anything.
exactly.
Because Cradle's really the only way for Jessup to break out of this, and he was never able to put it together, so just keep locking him down. Wow, this very long affair is taking place. Well, the other match is 2. Noah Walker, Paul Lynch, they're headed to game number 3 of kind of that Grixis smear. Walker on a Grixis Delver deck, Lynch playing Grixis Control. So Walker will be on the play here for game number 3. Sometimes Legacy games can be very short with combo decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw in game number 1 here, sometimes it can be very long with Lance decks, as we are currently seeing here. There's Cradle. Pass that turn back. Dredging will Mr. Long. Tranquil Thicket, Rashad and Port, Crop Rotation.
Tranquil Thicket, a nice one to find. Gives David something to do with his mana when Andrew is not taxing it at all.
Really starting to grease the wheels now. Deck's starting to do what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. But
There's
it's felt
a
like
port.
David's had pretty firm command of this game starting on the second turn.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I mean, it's quite a few turns later. But that Tabernacle on the play has done so much to constrict Andrew's development. And there's not really anything to be done about it once we get to this stage.
A bunch of Rashad-Port activations. You have to imagine eventually Long will find a wasteland.
Yeah.
Kill the non-basics.
The problem is that Andrew has really no lines of play that allow him to get net positive mana on his own turn.
Yeah.
Whatever mana he has entering his main phase, he has some net neutral plays. He can play things like Birchlore Rangers and such and sort of maintain even on the mana. But he can't really get to a spot where he can natural order in one turn unless he's entering his main phase with the appropriate amount of mana. And David's just never going to let that happen.
Nope. Whatever mana he plays is going to get punishing fire. There will be some port activations, obviously, and there might be some wastelands that work their way into the equation, too. So, punishing fire was returned, and then he had a cycle. Long will draw. I guess, he can just always go the normal route with Dark Depths.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of Thespian Stage, and though that thing still does have 10 counters on it, that works its way to be an option.
Yeah. No, David, the world is his oyster.
It really is at this point. However he wants to do it. Start by tapping the Cradle. Now let's tap a Forest. Now we'll tap the Bayou. Your turn.
Andrew here, just a model of perseverance in the face of adversity.
Must be from Sugarloaf. The unwillingness to concede. Just gonna battle it out. It is respectable. Hoping that David will make some sort of error. He's ready to discard.
Yeah. We're thawing.
We are thawing it out. One counter at a time. A little pep in your step there.
A great summary of the game. Killed on turn 30 by Merit Lage with a needle on Thespian Stage the whole time. That about sums it up.
Yep.
That lets you know everything you need to know about the game.
If that's not lands, I don't know what is. He has an exploration now.
Speeding up.
From 5 to 10 miles per hour.
Someone slow this man down. He is a hazard out there.
Pass that turn back. Will Long over to Jessup. Rashad-Port. My favorite land, by the way. My favorite land. Because I don't want anyone to have any fun when they play Magic. My favorite land. Just like Tango Wire is one of my favorite cards. You don't get to participate.
Listen, when my opponent has had mana on their main phase, a lot of bad stuff has happened.
That's why I don't want them to have it. You prefer land destruction?
If my opponents never played anything good on their own turn, I wouldn't have to blow up all their lands.
It's true. It's a lesson to be learned.
So really, whose fault is it?
I wouldn't blame you.
Right. It's not clear where the fault really blames, and we're not here to assign blame anyway. It's just, this is the world we live in.
A windswept teeth has been sacrificed. Jessup down to 25. And now it is Birchlore Ranger.
Firing back. David nods, acknowledges it.
2 of them. He may have a response. He already has it in his hand. Punishing fire. Kaboom. Not a bad try.
You don't know what Jessup's going to do with that mana. You have no idea. So you got to make sure he never has any of it.
Gotta kill that stuff.
Yeah.
Dredge Loam. Oh, there go the Trinispheres. They're gone now.
Rats.
Yeah. That's the lock piece that he needed. Here's a Tranquil Thicket. Dredge Loam again. Another Grove. Looks like a Life from the Loam and a Mox Diamond.
Well, this has been so far a top 8, at least on camera, defined by locks, so I would like to see the Trinisphere come up. We've had Rest in Peace, Blood Moon, 2 Meddling Mages, lock on David. We had Choke lock on Kevin.
That's true. Legacy is all about the sleeper hold.
Right.
It's what the format was built on.
Well, here's the thing. As the card pool expands, decks get more powerful. That's how that works. Games speed up. And so you can sort of choose one of 2 paths. You can use those cards to kill your opponent very quickly, or you can use those cards to prevent your opponent from ever doing anything. And a lot of Legacy decks just kind of fall into one of those 2 spaces.
I prefer the latter. He tapped out.
Is it because he forgot the Tabernacle trigger?
Correct. He tapped out. He forgot the Tabernacle trigger. That's it. No more. No more. He can't take it anymore. Andrew Jessup concedes the game. David Long has tied it up here. Elves versus lands. That was the breaking point for Andrew.
Yeah. That was the moment where Andrew realized he had given up on the game.
Yes. That's my kind of deck right there. That's what I love to see. These players are going to sideboard up for game number 3. We're going to take a short break here and get refreshed. We think you should do the same because we could be in for another long one here. So.
Potentially. I mean, there's no guarantee. We saw game 1. Andrew just killed him the 3rd turn. David didn't do much of anything. But potentially could go on for quite a while, as we just saw in that game.
So we will see you guys back here in about 90 seconds for game number 3.
SCG Live is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, where you can now order booster boxes, singles, and foil singles of Modern Masters 2015. With great prices, excellent customer service, and the world's largest Magic the Gathering singles inventory, StarCityGames.com is your one-stop shop for all your Magic the Gathering needs. Visit us on the web at StarCityGames.com and order Modern Masters 2015 today. Join us for the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational on June 5th through the 7th in Columbus, Ohio at the Origins Game Fair. The action starts Friday with Day 1 of the Season 2 Invitational, where players will compete in Standard and Modern for $50,000 in cash prizes, immortalization on an exclusive StarCityGames.com token, and a seat in the year-end Players' Championship. On Saturday, the $20,000 Modern Open will kick off, and on Sunday we'll have 2 $5,000 Premier Invitational qualifiers for both Standard and Legacy competitors. With side events firing all weekend long, join us to compete, trade, or just hang out with friends at the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational in Columbus, Ohio.
Meet the StarCityGames.com Spring 2015 Creature Collection. We are proud to debut 4 brand new designs, including the Kitten, Bee, and Bunny, plus our card parody Delver of Squeakrits. All are now available on card sleeves, playmats, and dice bags. Get your Spring 2015 Creature Collection products now, exclusively at StarCityGames.com.
We had a pair of sponsors, so I
Yeah.
just stepped away. This thing can't run without those advertisements. So I'm sure you guys understand how it is. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Nick Miller in the sideboard here in Worcester, getting ready for game number 3. Are you prepared?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
I mean, the progression there was interesting to see David's sort of strategic plan for the game, how he wanted to navigate the various lock pieces. Andrew, a testament to the human ability to soldier on in spite of incredible suffering.
I believe the term we're looking for is persevere.
Yeah. Walking uphill in the snow 20 miles to have all of his creatures killed, and then walking back also uphill somehow 20 miles back home.
To find his house burned down.
Find it burned down in the snow.
That's the synopsis of game number 2.
So Rashawn Port is your favorite land.
It is. There's a lot wrong with me. It is my favorite land.
Well, it's weird because, you know, when you're talking about cards you played competitively, a lot of it is going to be what is the card I had the most success with. That's just going to be where you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And that, given Magic's history, is going to lend you to some pretty spiky designs.
Indeed.
You saw this all over the place when people were talking about their top 8 Magic cards.
Yeah.
After Jim Davis's article.
Rashad Port, I'd have to think about it, but I'm fairly confident it's my favorite land. I love tapping someone's land during their upkeep. Absolutely love it. There has to be something insane for me to pass it in cube, and I wish maybe I wish I was around during that era of Constructed. Probably not.
Well, Mercadian Mass kind of was the block that had to pay for Saga and Tempest's sins. The game was power creeping out of control, and you had all these standard decks that were killing on the second and the third turn, and so Mercadian Mass was sort of a resetting of the power level in a lot of respects. With the exception of 2 designs.
Rashad Port.
Yep.
Lynn Civvy.
Dust Bowl.
Right. Right. Sorry.
Another one of Magic's failed attempts to get strip mine right. A long and storied history.
I think they got it right with Encroaching Wastes. I think that's the closest they've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost Quarter kind of, it's not the cleanest text box, but it kind of does what you want the effect to do. Punishes utility lands and punishes people who are all on non-basic lands.
Yeah.
But if you're a normal deck with some dual lands in it, Ghost Quarter doesn't really bother you very much.
Players have found hands they're happy with. We're underway here in game number 3. Jessup going to search for a forest. He's going to hope not to get tabernacled again. Makes winning real tough.
There's a Sphere of Resistance in David's hand.
That probably makes winning hard too. There's a Deathrite Shaman. Long will draw. Picked up a copy of Dark Depths.
Got a Mox Time in 2, so.
Could they have turn 1 Sphere?
Although in the face of a Deathrite Shaman, turn 1 Sphere is not necessarily the most powerful thing.
Go with the Burn Willows. Yikes. Punishing Fire.
This opening is quite good and pairs very nicely with the Sphere of Resistance at some point.
Yes.
But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Nettle Sentinel. Cradle. Nettle Sentinel. We're going beatdowns.
Well, Andrew's got to try to outpace the Abyss, and that's what he's playing against right now.
He could hope David doesn't have any lands, which is a ridiculous thing to say, given the archetype.
Well, he's got to make mana, too.
Yeah,
Not all the lands work.
it's true. Like the Dark Depths in the graveyard. It's weird to hope that your opponent draws all of their spells. That's kind of the situation I feel like Andrew's in.
Yeah. If David's just able to make his land drops and some has his good utility lands, this will be tough for Andrew to win.
I hope you draw all of your Sphere of Resistances and Trinispheres.
His hand looks awfully spell heavy.
It looks,
2 Campbells, an Exploration.
yeah, it looks
and a
bad-ish.
Sphere.
That's what I'm talking about.
And David probably can't deploy the Sphere Resistance now because he's on this Punishing Fire plan for the time being and has no mana to work with.
He's going to go with the Sphere, huh? All right.
Bold.
That is pretty bold. I mean, Jessup's playing through Sphere pretty easy with Cradle in play.
Yeah. I mean, I understand Punishing Fire is kind of bridged over 2 turns, but with no lands left over, he's basically looking at spending his next couple of turns just gambling. He's got some gambles left over.
Yeah.
But that's awfully slow. That's a plan slow enough where just Nettle Sentinel beat down might be good enough.
Yeah. 5-turn clock right now. Good place to start. Get in for 4. Long down to 16. The follow-up. Querin Ranger. Triggers. Untap the Nettle Sentinels. Pick this up. Play this. Deathrite Shaman. Keep in mind all these elves cost 2 mana, so he can't do anything crazy. Has to turn back. Cradle will be tapping for 4 mana next turn, we believe. What's the draw? Not even sure if it was a land. Looks like a thespian stage.
Uh,
That was a good draw.
okay. I mean, we can just do this instead.
That was a really good draw. Yeah. And neat draw step. I think he's going to play it.
Well, the problem is it's not a kill in one turn because Andrew can go to 21 with the Deathrite Shaman.
Looks like he's not going to play it. Interesting. It feels like overthinking it, right?
You just hope Andrew doesn't have the combo, go make your Merit Lage, and hope to win in 2 turns. Seems fine to me. I think that all the paths involving spells just seem so slow to me at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this a lot better because not only this, it puts the brakes on him for the turn.
Yeah. You know, if you're worried about, you know, Gamble or Merit Lage being too slow here or getting comboed out, well, then Gamble's off the table too.
Yeah.
Because that's even slower.
The thing for Jessup, you have to realize you're not dead yet.
Right. Jessup can go to 21. He can take 1 hit.
It's 5 mana. Natural order, maybe? Yeah. I don't know if he can kill him this turn.
Well, he gets 4. The Crater Hoof Behemoth gets blocked and swallowed up.
Yep.
So it's 4, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, that's still lethal.
Is that lethal still?
It's still lethal through a blocker.
A good draw. Both sides of the table. I think David might be doing the math.
If David's only play here is make Merit Lage and block Crater Hoof Behemoth, he's going to die from lethal damage.
Well, given the Sphere of Resistance in play, I don't think he has another option.
Yeah, I think this is too much.
I suppose a crop rotation could work its way into the equation for Glacial Chasm.
But that's only a temporary reprieve. I
Yep.
mean, David starts losing a lot of his resources. He has very little to work with to begin with.
So that looks to be the plan. Natural order here for Crater of Behemoth.
And this is why David had to go for this route, because if he spent his turn gambling instead, this setup
Dies.
he definitely dies. So.
Yeah.
At least this way, if Andrew's hand is just a bunch of elves, David can win in 2 turns. Oh, excuse me. This is actually, I miscounted. This
Did
is
you get it
actually
wrong?
Xaxes.
Oh, okay.
Because it's 12 points of unblocked damage, 4 times 3.
Yes.
And then the 4 power of the unblocked creatures is 16.
That's lucky.
On the nose.
Crater Hoof's big nose. Mm-hmm. Assuming that thing has a nose.
I initially miscounted here. I thought it was more coming across, but I think it's exactly 16.
I keep you here for one reason.
Just Crater Hoof Behemoth math?
Yeah, that's the main reason.
Literally the only reason I'm here.
The main reason I keep you in the booth is for the math. To
Listen,
square the creatures.
I have it right before Andrew has moved into combat.
If you say so.
Because I was counting as 4 times 4, not 4 times 3. Because only 3 of them are unblocked.
I'll check the tape when it goes up on our YouTube page.
Because I counted 20 and it's actually 16. I was over by 4 because, you know, I
Starts
said
at
4 squared, but the Crater Hoof Behemoth, blah, 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 blah.
They make a 20-20 regardless. Return Punishing Fire. Yeah, Sphere Resistance says that costs too much. That's going to do it. Andrew Jessup is going to win this match here over David Long. Elves takes down Lands in 3 games. Number 1 overall seed is moving on. Getting by a rough matchup there at times. You saw game 2 how rough it can be, but when Andrew is on the plane, he has a pretty good draw. It seems like he's able to win the matchup.
Yeah, it's David's hands that are a little bit clunky. When he's on the draw, he's going to get killed on the 3rd turn a good percentage of the time. Game 2, he naturally drew one of his important cards. that stifled a lot of Andrew's development. And at that point, David has time to leverage loam and punishing fire and all that kind of stuff. But the bad case scenario for David manifested itself both